It got started in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I directed a multi-purpose community center. And what I decided to do, because of a little discussion with some of the young people about black people during the month of February, and one of the little girls said to me, she said, Mr. Hord, I don't know, why are you trying to convince us about how great black people are? You're the first black man that we ever known that was on the front page of the newspaper, and you didn't shoot somebody or you wasn't dead. And I said, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn every room in this community center into an exhibit area. So I started from the gym to the conference rooms to the meeting spaces. And when you walk in that area, you saw all these artifacts around. Down the hall with pictures of black people and accomplishment. And that's how I got started. It was a traveling museum. I loaded up and moved around to different areas, schools and boys clubs, YMCAs, until a year and a half ago when I had an operation and I couldn't move it around. And I was invited here at North Decatur Mall. I've been here now for a year and 9 months. I was diagnosed as an adult, and while I was in college, as being dyslexic. I had no idea what they was talking about. But the professor who did that said to me, don't worry about that, because you have been able to compensate. And one of the things that I noticed about you, if there's a picture in front of you, it's amazing what you get out of that picture, how you describe what's there when I see some other people do the same thing. That's what helped me in putting the museum together. And you notice I call it Sights and Sounds. It gives a sort of mini timeline from people arriving from Africa to the United States. And it sort of shows you some of the things that we may consider as being negative or bad things that happen to positive things that also happen out of that. The most interesting one that happened to me since I've been here is that I have to learn to not racial profile, as they say. I'm sitting there and I looked into the door and there was this young Caucasian white gentleman who stepped in the door. And he just stood there, looked around back and forward. And I said, not today. I don't need this today. The Spirit said, you get up and you go and you treat him just like you would anyone else. So I walk over to him and I introduce myself. And he walked over to the table where I have the Civil War and also the Underground Railroad information. And he says to me, yes, I have two questions. First of all, I want to know what you think about that flag. And he pointed to the Confederate flag that I have lying over there. Then he turned and he pointed towards the area where I have President Obama cardboard cutout. And he said, and him. I said, what him? And he said, you know who I'm talking about, him, standing over there. And I said, standing over, what him? You don't know who it is? And he said, with the black suit on over there. I said, oh, you talking about President Barack Obama. So I said, okay. So I turned to him and I explained to him what my thought was about the Confederate flag. And he just looked at me real strange. And then I turned to him and I said, okay, what's the problem you having with President Barack Obama? He said he had just destroyed this country. And medicine, Obamacare and all that, we don't need that. And I said, why do you say that? He said, all these laws that he's passed. I said, a president don't make laws, young man. And I gave him the whole story about what the job of the president was. So finally he said, give me a tour. And I gave him a tour. He finished the tour and he walked out the door. He turned and came back and he said, where did you say the donation jar was? And I pointed to it. He went over and he put money in the donation jar and he left. About 5 minutes, he came back. And I heard this voice say, Mr. Horton. And I turned and it was him. And I went like, wait a minute, what just happened here? He said, I need a favor, sir. I said, he probably going to tell me he want his money back out of the donation jar. And as he turned to me, he had on a cap. And on his cap, he had a Confederate flag. Just like the what I'm wearing here. He had that one like that, but it was a Confederate flag on his cap. He said, I have some friends. He said, and what I would like to do is bring my friends over, and would you do with them what you just did with me? I said, what did I do with you? He said, take me on the tour. He said, would you take them on the tour? Would you share with them what you share with me? I said, I'll be more than happy to do that. But why? He said, because they're going to be surprised like me. I did not know what I found out since I've been in here about black people. So I said, amen, amen, amen. These are the kinds of visitors I get to the museum, and I personally give them tours. And even with this interview, you've probably seen some people that have been in here, and they stand looking at me or sitting, waiting for me to finish this interview so I could take them on a tour. And I have volunteers from time to time who is here, and they'll say, you got these people spoiled because they come in here, and if you're not here to give the tour, they say they'll be back when you come.